about the war that's going on over in the Middle East, an expanding war that could, easily turn into World War III any day. And we're talking about the nations that are helping Iran. People don't know that there's 5 different nations that are surrounding Iran, and help could be coming from all 5 different directions. You got Pakistan, you got Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, you got Turkey, you got Iraq, then you got Syria a little farther over, all surrounded, and all of them to an extent are Muslim nations. They're Muslim nations, and so uh, it's no doubt about it. I don't believe that they would help, destroy another Muslim nation to that extent for the United States of America. And so you got this thing now that the United States is saying, or Donald Trump particularly is saying, he about to put an economic stranglehold on Iran. But the only way you could do that if all the other nations, are in agreement with that. They don't have to be in agreement with that. They can say whatever they want. And so if Iran is propped up, automatically, automatically you already know they coming through either one of them 5 nations, whether it be Turkey, whether it be Iraq, and from my understanding, the United States is pulling out of there. Then you got Turkmenistan. I'm not too familiar with them over there, but I hear the Turk, which means that they are most likely in alignment with Turkey. They most likely in alignment with Turkey. Then you got a lot of Turkish, affiliation in Iraq, northern Iraq. Those areas closest in Syria, all of that. It's got some Turkish affiliation, and that's why I believe he went over there. You know what I'm saying? On the strength of that alone, on the strength of that alone, that any help, could be coming through there, through them nations. And you got to understand on the other side of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan is Russia and China. So if Russia and China wanted to push something through there with the permission, uh, uh, most definitely. Most definitely. At this point, it would be logical. But the thing is, these Europeans is not logical. You know what I'm saying? The United States is, they had to do it in Vietnam. You know what I'm saying? They had to do it in Vietnam, and it's looking like Iran is the new Vietnam for the United States. They in a quagmire. They ain't lost, but they didn't lost respect, and they didn't fuck the economy. I don't know how far they didn't fuck the. I don't. They saying they only getting 2% oil out the motherfucker, but they losing their prestige in that area, being able to do what the fuck they want to do and be the puppet master over there. And so, losing like that, and then you in confrontation with all these other nations and shit, it ain't gonna fare well. That was just a dumb move, especially if you weak. If you're weak, and I mean militarily, you can have all of the fucking armaments, you can have all the planes, you can have all the aircraft carriers and all that, but if you ain't got the generals and the corporals and the strategists and the motherfuckers that the soldiers respect in place, all of that shit don't mean nothing. And so with the fact that Donald Trump and head self with his, you talking about DEI, this shit is crazy. I didn't even Ray. hit me to the fact that he was a motherfucking National Guard major, I say that's almost disrespectful. That's almost disrespectful, man. I mean, straight up. That's almost disrespectful for a motherfucker to be a major in the National Guard and motherfucker and men that's career generals, even an army major. Now, if he was a straight, I'm not saying it wouldn't matter to me what if he was a major in the army or not. But I would respect an army major over a fucking National Guard. Period. And I'm not disrespecting, in that light. But y'all like y'all weekend soldiers. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, y'all weekend soldiers. Y'all do y'all thing, but y'all ain't got to, y'all called up, for national emergencies and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You ain't the one that's got to go to war and shit like that, unless it's a fucking. But you still got to have the home defense. But I wouldn't, that right there, because I got a lot of family in the military, and that's just right. Nigga, ain't no general gonna respect no motherfucking major to where he gonna live. That don't even make no fucking sense. You know what I'm saying? That just don't make no motherfucking sense. Because no matter how, that's your rank. And no matter if you retire or whatever, if you come back on that motherfucking base or any base and you in uniform, you got to salute. If you in uniform, if you retired and shit, but if you in uniform, you got to fucking salute, nigga. You know what I'm saying? You got to motherfucker. If you active, you know what I'm saying? If you active and you step on the motherfucking base, you got to fucking salute that you beneath them. So he's the Secretary of Defense right now. But if he lose, and I think he didn't retire. I don't think he wasn't active. He was on the motherfucking what's the name. So he wasn't even active, man. So you done went and got a news reporter who used to be a major for the National Guard. Where do they do this shit at, man? But anyway, see what Donald Trump fails to understand, and I say this because I know better. I know Muslims. They not gonna support no Donald Trump. Now they might not fuck with Iran because they might be from some different type of shit. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think, and they know where this shit is going. They know where this shit is going. And Pakistan is with Saudi Arabia. Pakistan is with Saudi Arabia. Afghanistan ain't with the United States. I don't know who they with. Them motherfucking Taliban, they don't too much fuck with nobody. You know what I'm saying? The Taliban, they some real radical motherfucker. They don't really fuck with nobody. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. So they like, they don't want you to come up in they shit at all. They some, them some rudimentary ass Muslims. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I don't know. I say that to say, then you got Turkmenistan and Turkey. I don't know. Russia and Turkey been, at odds. They've been at odds and shit. They've been at odds. I know the Russians and the Turks been at odds because they probably been warring against one another for a long time. Them Turks and them motherfucking Russians right over in there, they don't too much, I don't think they too much get along. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how that dynamic working. You know what I'm saying? But China and Russia, oh, yeah, okay then. That's right. Yeah, boast not of your wisdom before the king, hide not thyself. be not forgotten, neither seek the top seat as a competitor. Yeah, okay. That I break that. I meditate on that. You know what I'm saying? I meditate on that. I meditate on that. Where you get that out of the art of war? Where you get that from, Dawood? Where you get that from, Dawood? What book you get that out of? The art of war. He ain't hear me. Drop it in there if you where you got that from, Dawood. We're gonna move forward, family. We got a lot more topics, but we dropping 5 nations that could help. You know, okay, okay, okay. What's that? That's Sarai. Is that apocrypha or is that in the Bible? Anyway, I'll look it up. Get with me over at Patreon, General Sarasun Seti, link right there. Ray just drop it in. Click it. God damn it, get over there and get some of that wisdom. I'll see y'all in a minute. Boom, Black Power.